There is many ways to win a Company of Heroes game as the United States forces. We usually think of overwhelming armor pushes, sweeping infantry flanks, or support weapons punching a hole in the Axis lines. But there's one unit that can take part in all of this, but it never really gets the credit it deserves. That's the ever humble Scout Squad.
On tiptoes, fire the flare!
Scout Squads are amongst my favourite units in the game. Scouts support the rest of your army through their extensive sight range, the utility that they give from flare and smoke, and the ability to cap the map quickly. While Scouts are not the best combative units, they do allow everything else in the US arsenal to shine. In this video, we will follow the journey of a Scout Squad as they play an active role in breaking the stalemate at Pacino. What I like to do with my Scout Squads when I begin the game is to send them to one side of the map. Scouts do have one of the fastest capping speeds out of all infantry in the game, and may as well put that to good use and cap up as much of the map, especially in the early game, that we can. So we'll be following most of this game from this point of view of the Scout and seeing where it goes from left to right, or sometimes down the middle to help inform other units. Now, whilst we're at it, actually, I want you to take a guess, as the viewer, how many points do you think that this Scout Squad will cap throughout this game? And also, how many kill assists this unit, a single Scout Squad, will contribute by supporting other units in the game throughout the game? And we'll keep track of that in the corner. Now, so far, it's going all swell and sweet. I've set my rifles in the middle. I've got my PGs in the north, or my scouts in the north. And I'm just trying to determine where my DAC player is going to send his units to next. I'm constantly just checking at the fringe of the fog of war to see if I can see a red cap occurring here or here. Might take some time before we see our first Axis unit come into the fray. But once we see him, we're going to watch him like a hawk with the scouts to check where he is moving. So I know that there's an engagement that's occurring in the middle. Some pioneers have capped the middle VP. My rifles are putting some backwards pressure to force them off. And we're just trying to figure out where the opponent is. I know he's capped the south VP, so he might be going for a VP rush, but now my scouts have caught the wind of something. Ooh, they detect a Panzer Grenadier. So with that knowledge in mind, I know he's almost finished capping this point. He's probably going to make his way to the VP next. So I'm just swooping around here. I went to that green cover, and now I'm going to this green cover. The reason why I'm going to this green cover is this is a little bit further back, and there's a chance that I might catch him in no man's land. Especially because the scout has 45 vision, and the Panzer Grenadiers have 35. So I'll be able to catch him out of guard. But he's not coming up. I'm thinking, all right, he's not moving up. I'm going to follow him. And I could see that he was moving into the southwards direction. I could see him moving there. He could not see me. And we might show that in a picture-in-picture. Now, I'm going to move forward, cap this point, whilst there's still a lot of action occurring in the south, and he realizes this. He's like, okay, there's something up in the north capping. I'm going to finish capping my cutoff, and then I'm going to push this unit off. I recognize this and start to move back. I don't want to engage this. He's got the military advantage here, and if I reacted a little bit earlier, he wouldn't have even got off any damage, and I would basically just waste his time. And that's what my intention is here. I know I can't win this fight, so I avoid it. I push backwards, hide behind this hedge, and if he goes here, I'm going to go there. If he goes here, I'm going to go here and just waste his time. But I know he's going for the VP, so I'm like, all right, I can't really move anywhere. I'm going to go decap his fuel. There's no need to retreat this scout. I know whilst this was occurring, there is a motorbike and a Panzer Grenadier and Pioneer in the south. So I'm safe to do this. I'm safe with my scout to push into this top part of the map. I know I'm not going to be cut down on retreat, so I'll sit here, cap it up, and move on to the next objective. My riflemen will put some pressure on here and cause these PGs to flush out, whilst the fastest unit at capping in the game is doing its job nicely and capping up that point. And I'll occasionally just go to the attack map just so you get a sense for what's going on. Now, I knew this engagement, the Pioneers are pushing up. I don't have access to green cover. I'm just going to run home. There's no need for me to fight this engagement. And it's not a bad thing either. This scout has capped up all the northern side of the map for me effectively. So I'm happy for it to retreat back, make its way back to the base, and then start doing its lovely capping work onto the south side of the map, getting this +5 fuel, this VP, and this +5 fuel on the way. But a scenario pops up. As this scout was retreating, you may have noticed there was an MG in this building. And I'm like, all right, this is going to be tricky for me to dislodge. So naturally, I've got two options here. I can either get out an MG, or I can get a mortar, I should say, sorry, to dislodge the MG. Or I can go for a flamethrower and try to flank it. I go for the flamethrower. But the flamethrower alone can be a little bit tricky to get a good flank off on this house. This house has a lot of vision coming from this path and the time it would take for me to move my flame around the back or here is too much. So what do? I get the flamer upgrade, and I'm also getting the smoke upgrade. The scouts allow your engineers or rifle to just simply punch right down the middle. All you need to do is get your smoke and say, all right, we're going there, boys. Let's pop that smoke. It's just finished upgrading. And the next maneuver will be to activate that smoke as the engineers are being upgraded. So that's what happens. We activate the smoke. The engineers rush forward. They're going to be safe. I can use a bit of attack ground in that point there and get the church free of this garrison. And similarly, those Panzer Grenadiers, they're not going to hang around that fire for too long. So the scouts done an effective engagement there. It played an active role in not just capping, as it is now, but it allows the flamers and the riflemen to move into scenarios where they otherwise would not be able to under the cover of smoke. So after this, my scout's done its job in the center. What I do is I revert back to the previous plan. I'm going to finish capping this point here with my scouts, and then they'll make their way to the south to cap the munitions and the fuel. Knowing that the flak's there though, I do have to be a little bit careful now with my scout to not have it become overextended. If the scout becomes overextended, it's going to be very quickly focused down by that flak half track. And it's a risk that I don't want to take. The scout is such a valuable unit to how I play my US game now that if I lose my scout, I start to feel lost. I start to feel a little bit nervous because I don't have that vision to help me make key decisions as I move across the map. When I first started playing CoH3 and I lost my scout, I was like, whatever. I can quickly replace it. But now that the community's become better at this game, and you can't afford to lose units in the early game. And the scout helps support other units. It keeps other units alive. So part of the reason why I fired the flare off here is just to understand what is in the south. I know his PG's here. I know his med trucks here. So everything else must be in the north, which is true. The flak has made its way to the north. The MG's there. And there's going to be a few units in the fog of war that I haven't accounted for yet. But I know that they're going to be in the north to mid side of the map. So I'll go have a look at his point of view, and that's the case. Everything is shifting to this side of the map because he has quite effectively secured the south side of the map, my opponent. So naturally, his next objective is to be in a position to secure this. So that flare helped me to understand that and preemptively just get this engineer and this rifleman into green cover. So it's helping. Whilst here it didn't actively play a role in getting kills, it did play an active role in preventing my manpower bleed because I was already in established green cover positions where the flak half track isn't going to do a lot of damage against my units. Now the scout is up to its next objective, which is still just capping up the left-hand side of the map. But here at this point in time, I know that this is in a bit of a dangerous position. I've lost track of the flak half track. I assume it's coming south. He's got 2 units here. I'm just happy with the decap, and I am legging it out of there. I'm not going to hang around. I don't want to lose my scout. And the flak does come across to try and get me. The captain buys a bit of protection. He changed its priority to the scouts, but with some fortunate RNG, they get back to the nurses at home. And at this point, I've started to tech. I've got my anti-tank gun out. I've got the mortar. I've got my core mainline units. The only unit that I'm waiting on is really the M8 to give me that vert mobility, but it is on the way. Now, here there's a lot of engagements occurring on the map. I'm pushing in the mid. I'm pushing in the north. So I start to go a bit idle in my base. This is an area of my own game where I do want to constantly improve. Just that action of knowing that, all right, these units are here. I've got to bring them up as fast as possible. The best way to do it, I find, with my playstyle is simply just to go to attack map. And you can see they're moving together. What I would have done is I would have gone on attack map, dragged them, and just moved them onto the field. As long as they're moving onto the field, then that's all that they need to do. I can move them and push them to the left, the mid, or the right later on. The important thing is just to get their bums back into the fight. But now the scout is leading the way here. I'm just trying to suss out where are his units again. I know the pioneer's still here. He's got his quad. Oh, not his quad. His half track there. So I'm going to slay Philly push up here. Especially with the flak being in that position there. Now let's keep on following the scout. He's just doing his thing. I think for the next while, he's just going to be capping the side of the map. But like the announcer just said, I'm down to 200 points. I'm starting to realize, thanks to that announcer, that, yeah, my map control is not in a good position at the moment. I need to start locking down some of the map. I've got a good army composition. I'm really happy with my army composition. I've got a bit of everything. But I need to prioritize the map now. And the scout is going to play an active role in that. It's going to play an active role by capping this left-hand side, getting this VP, and then the middle VP. And then I make that conscious decision that, all right, I'm going to focus on these 2 points and make sure that I stay in the VP game by locking down at least 2 VPs so that I am not going to drain any further. So we start to get these guys back. I'll follow the main engagement in the center for a little bit so you get a better sense of the game as well. Because the scout is just doing its thing on the bottom side. So pushing him out of the middle. I'm going to jump into this house to get some vision and dislodge that league, which has been trading blows with my mortar that is just moving into the middle section of the map. Now, it's pretty risky there, keeping his flak there. I could have brought up my anti-tank gun and got in a sneaky snipe, but it's not the case. Maybe if my scout was there, it might be a bit different. But I do actually land the kill, which was a bit of a relief. But immediately once I get that kill, I know, all right, we got to get out of there. And he goes for a really nice flank here with that unit. He was probably fortunate. I was fortunate not to lose this mortar there. But the scout is still doing its thing. It's capping up this point and making its way there. Now, I knew here he's put his flak, his half track into an awkward position. At that point, I knew if I placed my anti-tank gun in that V, it's not going to have any escape route with the M8 blocking all of these potential routes. But the issue of doing that is that pyro is going to be a bit of a risk. But I get on home. Now, the scout's done a fantastic job here. And one thing to really recognize is that the threat of the flak half track has been removed. I don't have any risk, and especially with that half track as well being removed from the map and killed, I know that I can safely move this scout forward. And that's what I do. I bring it forward, and I keep on moving forward until I get to this hedge line. I'm not going to cap this point. I have no interest in capping the point. Or maybe I am. No, I moved to the side. I don't want him to know that I'm there. Because what I want to do is I want to shoot a flare into my opponent's base. I want to know what tech do they have. And what does the flare reveal? It reveals a tier tech structure where... Oh, it's a tier 3? Yeah, it's tier 3. Where there's going to be Panzer 3s, a potential walking Stuka or a flak. But it's unlikely that a Stuka or a flak's going to be on the way. So I know it's going to be a Panzer III. I don't keep my scout around here to wait any longer or cap this point. It's already at half health, so I'm just like, no, let's get out of there. Let's bring him back home, get him healed up. He's done his job. He can come back home, have a nice cup of warm coffee, and then make his way back onto the field.
Whilst the scouts are reinforcing, let's do a quick comparison of scouts compared to pathfinders and artillery observers. The advantage of scouts is they are cheaper in terms of base cost, upkeep, and reinforcement. They're even Stevens on capping, sight, range, and movement, but a clear disadvantage of scouts starts to be apparent with their lower damage output and health. This is due to scouts having 80 HP per model, whilst the alternatives have 90 HP per model, but also scouts have one less model in a squad, and scouts have 3 models, whilst pathfinders and artillery observers have 4. Also, scouts have less utility with no access to the rifle, grenade, or monitor beacon, but they're not locked into a battle group. So to put it simply, if you plan to use your scouts mainly for capping and vision, they may be the better choice. But artillery observers and pathfinders might be preferred for extended combat, additional abilities, or an early selected battle group.
Now, these scouts, they've only got 1 kill so far. They haven't been actively involved in the fighting, but actively involved in capping and providing vision support. But they are getting close to Vet 1, and I know I'm going to be making that decision soon, whether do I get the healing or do I get the stealth recon. Now, when I go for artillery observers or pathfinders, I'm more inclined to get the healing because those units can play an active role in fighting on the main lines. Like I said, these scouts, they have 80 HP per model, but the pathfinders and artillery observers have more. So I quite often tend to get my scouts on in a scenario where I'd like the recon ability. You can stealth them and hide them. And the scouts realized that, okay, that PG was pretty hurt. I may as well push forward. And I just kept them sitting inside that house there because I knew with the mortar providing the airburst barrage, they were only going to be able to stay there for so long, the PGs. So I can keep them in that engagement, move them forward at a point in time to quickly recap up that VP, which they've done effectively. And now they've got their Vet 1. And now I'm really starting to think, all right, what's my strategy going to be? I want to hold this VP. And what I do is I lock in, what's this commander called again? Advanced Infantry Battle Group. I go for the howitzer, and I'm going to use the howitzer's pacifier to lock down this middle VP. But my pathfinder or my scouts here are going to play an active role. I bring him to this point here and make him cloaked in a position where I know that my opponent is going, and you can see here the Panzer III's on the field and it's hurting me. But I cloak my scouts here to provide vision in a position where he's not going to have a lot of movement in this sector. So these aren't going to get revealed, but it allows me to know a lot of information. I'm looking at an entrance where he's going to be making his way to the middle VP and also on the northern side of the map to the top VPs. Since now VPs are my priority, they're my focal point. So I'm placing it in a position where I'm effectively watching both and making it a position where my howitzer has a lot of vision to help support it hit some nice points. The tasty target at the moment is the Jaegers in the middle, and then naturally after that, this league is going to cop a pounding. So I think the passive round from the howitzer has fired. And it's starting to hit at this league. Now the Panzer III is pushing in the north. He's also pushing in the south with this Pioneer squad and gets an effective grenade off. So I can only I'll cap that, and I'm going to have to quickly back out. But the scouts here are doing a really nice job of just giving me a sense of confidence of where my opponent is and where he's going to be. Now, I bring my anti-tank gun up here because I know the scouts protecting my left-hand side. I've got sight of that. And I know that Panzer III is still up in that position there. So I'm allowing this scout to give me vision to protect my anti-tank gun and potentially also get a damage hit off on the Panzer III if it enters range. Now, I bring my Shafi in support here, and I knew that, all right, the Panzer III is coming. I'm going to chase this down. Lucky, the Panzer III isn't going to crush my scouts. And they make their way across to the side. They're still in the engagement. They're still giving vision. I shoot off a flare just to help provide extra vision on this side of the map since I started to lose sight. And now the anti-tank gun knows it has to rotate to protect the middle whilst the Shafi is in support. The scout's still playing an active role of making sure that nothing is coming from that direction. And I could also make the decision here to pop it into that house to maintain that vision. The Howitzer's still doing a bit of work on that Panzer III. And there's a quick exchange here between the Shafi and the Panzer III. And I know that he's probably going to be baited here. He knows that Shafi's got one shot left, so I'm going to bring him right back. The anti-tank gun's already rotated there. Snares are going to fly off. Maybe one more sneaky round for the Shafi. And that Panzer III is on a limited lifespan now with its engine being damaged. And the scouts are just doing their thing. They're still chipping away, shooting at tanks, trying to steal a kill. And they're up to 4 kills themselves. They're getting the job done. But this is a job they can't get done. So we quickly just get on out of there. Assault Grenadiers, another tale altogether for the scouts to verse. They're pretty strong against them. But I call the NPCs into the center to help me clear out that middle and hold on to that central VP. And now I'm at a point where I know that I've been able to place a lot of pressure on the map. Through this NPC push in the center, through the stolen MG in the south, through the rifles push in the north, this scout has allowed these units to be in the right place at the right time. And that's what I love about scouts. It's all about that vision control and providing the support to your other units on the map. So naturally, the scout is back at home, just enjoying his healing break whilst the NPC push continues down the center. But their time is about to tick on up and they'll make their way back to the retreat point off the map. Mortar's getting involved in the capping as well. And can do that safely under the support fire of the howitzer. And the scout's making his way into the middle again as well. And now I'm bringing it more into the middle because I know its role is moved from capping the map into more of a supporting role to provide vision for my anti-tank gun. I want to make sure this anti-tank gun does not get caught out of position. I want to keep this point here capped. The scouts can cap it quickly. But also, they are able to, if necessary, smoke the point with their smoke and sit on that point to delay the opponent from capping it if necessary. So what I do here, let's move this scout up a little bit more to get a taste of what he's doing. I could try cloak it, but I'd rather keep it visible here and moving just to scan across the middle and if necessary, keep on running down this side. But the Panzer III is another threat altogether. If we're not going to keep my hero scouts around there for too much longer.
Control of a sector.
So another Shafi's on the way just to help deter these units, whilst the howitzer is plugging away. I think the howitzer, it's been quite well supported by the scout and has hit 4 kills, but done a lot of health damage at the same time. What I think I'm getting a lot more kills from is, yeah, the mortar. And the mortar is being complemented by the scout consistently. It allows me to figure out where I need to pop air bursts, where I might need to pop a smoke, and move around the map accordingly. So scouts are making their way back into the middle, getting the bonus off the howitzer. And now it's really about just holding onto these VPs and consolidating my grip in the center of the map. Now there's a big push in the south.
Artillery cooldown complete.
Snares going off. Shaffy's going off. I think this is a pretty deciding factor in this game, which makes my opponent start to lose a fair bit of confidence that, alright, he's forced his 2 Panzer IIIs to go back. They need repairs. They can only fight for so long.
Order units report the Krauts are down to 250 points.
Euro Scouts make it back home again. I think they're sitting on 6 kills now. And my opponent at that point in time calls it quits.
How close were you with your guess on the total caps and kill assists from the Scout? The Scout capped 13 out of 30 caps in total. That's 43% of the map was capped by a single unit when we compare it to other units. And the Scout, it's only 4 population and 3 manpower upkeep. So it's a very time and cost efficient unit when it comes to capping the map. And also, when we look at the kill assists, it had 10 infantry kill assists and 1 vehicle kill assist. Most of these kill assists started to count up once the Scout was brought into the center of the map and started guiding in the anti-tank gun and the rifleman. But this is an important decision to make in the game, whether it's cap or provide vision. And that also ignores all the strategic information that I gained from flares on the field and in the enemy base, which would play a contribution to the strategic decisions that I make throughout the game. But hopefully you enjoyed this video and you got some tips and tricks that you can use to improve your Scout game. Let me know in the comments which unit you'd like to see next in this series. Until then, take care, and I'll see you next time.